Hey everyone, today is Zora here. Now, I originally began work last Wednesday on this video, but the audio mysteriously crapped out on me for reasons unknown. I updated my computer and that rectified the problem, so yay I guess. I still had to delete those old recordings because they're taking up room if they won't play properly, so I'm starting over on this from scratch. Now, hopefully with these delays out of the way, I can get started with this. My top 10 most disliked Pokemon list. 722 confirmed Pokemon species at the time of this recording. As of the introduction of Magiana, there's bound to be some stinkers. Be it designs I've always found atrocious, overall uselessness in battle, being redundant, or just a personal vendetta against that particular Pokemon. I just hate these guys. However, this is just opinion. So if a mon you like makes a list, sorry ahead of time. Feel free to tell me your most hated Pokemon in the comment section below. Number 10, quite a few baby Pokemon. Now this one's low on the list as there are some baby Pokemon I really do like. Togepi, Riolu, and Elekid for example. So the reason for my disdain for many baby Pokemon isn't that they're useless in battle, as it makes sense. It's more that many of them can have pretty annoying requirements to fulfill before you're able to evolve them, such as grinding for friendship or trying to get your Tyrogue to evolve into a Hitmontop. Good luck if you're a little kid and haven't figured out how to get your stats even. Or that many of them evolve into generally crappy mons, such as Chingling, Bonsly, or Mantike. Also, if you're playing gens for your Gen 4, don't make the same mistake I did and sell your incense. I didn't know that it was necessary at the time, as I didn't have internet until mid-Gen 4, but by then it was too late. Whoops! Number 9, and as previously mentioned, Regirock. Now, I'm already not a fan of the Regi trio due to how complex unlocking them could be. Yeah, how is a 10-year-old playing these games supposed to know Braille? I had to ask my parents to buy me a guide to figure that shit out. But ever since Emerald, Regirock's been the focus of my hate more than the other two. Now, I know legendaries are hard to catch, at least pre-Gen 4, but it took me 3 tries catching Regirock. It killed itself thrice with struggle, taking over an hour to catch. By the time I finally caught it, I was so mad I named it Butteface. That's butt with an E at the end, mine, rock formation butte, an insult and a pun. Number 8, Butteface. Now, as you could probably infer if you've seen my tribute stock, I'm an avid Nuzlocke, and I recently finished Nuzlocke 4 White and White 2. But ever since playing through those games, I have a sinking feeling every time my opponent sends one of these stupid-looking buffaloes out. This one's only low on the list because while I've had a few very close calls, I've never lost a Pokemon to these. Going through Unova again after several years, I had practically forgot that these Pokemon are pretty good HP tanks with a good attack stat and some pretty powerful moves such as Head Charge, Mega Horn, and Earthquake. At times it feels like a miracle I never lost a Pokemon to these things because, let me tell you, nothing would piss me off more than a Mook Butteface surviving my Emboar's Arms Thrust because it only ever hissed twice, only to take it out with a Stab Reckless Boosted Head Charge. Both Meganium and Ember were vying for the spot for me. But in the end, most of my complaints against Meganium were fairly petty since I've never even really used a Meganium, having always preferred using a Typhlosion or Feraligatr instead. I have actually used an Ember though, in my recent White 2 run, so my complaints against it are not completely unfounded. First of all, I have no complaints about its typing that hadn't already been made. And we all know it's very much outclassed by Blaziken and Fernape. I take more fault with most of the moves it learns naturally, either hurting it, or not being very powerful and somewhat luck-based. Aforementioned Arms Thrust, the only fighting moves it learns by level up. But besides that, on Nuzlocke, that's not a good thing. For much of the White 2 run, I would rely more heavily on most of my other Pokemon, like Crocodile and Levani, while Emboar would be rarely used. Needless to say, I swapped back out for Samurott when I did white. Number 6. Aromatisse. Back when Spritzy was first released, I used to imagine what its possible evolution could be. Well, it's pink, so maybe a flamingo? Its little mask reminded several people of plague doctors, and while I doubt that was the case, it still seemed like a pretty cool and creepy idea. Instead, we got this tubby, ugly purple thing. I suppose I can only blame myself for setting the bar too high, but it just feels like a wasted opportunity when it could have been so much more. Number 5. Probopass, Licky Licky, and Amipom. Yes, 3 Pokemon under a single entry, but I really don't hate them enough for an entire entry dedicated to each of them. And it's pretty much the same reason in that they're ugly, so I figured why not? Now, Gen 4 did grant some older Pokemon some pretty badass evolutions, but they also gave some pretty okay looking Pokemon some frankly hideous evolutions. Nosepass is fairly forgettable dex filler, aside from being used as the main challenge in Roxanne's Skin Battle, so I don't know why they chose to give it an evolution, and I suppose I can't be too hard on it, because I have no idea else what they could do with Pokemon that was already based on a giant compass. I suppose the artist didn't know either. In my opinion, the floating mini nose and the giant mustache just makes it look even more ridiculous. I also have no idea what they were trying to do with Licky Licky, but I can say for sure the design does nothing for it. They honestly just made a fatter Lickitung. Lickitung's design has some potential if you play up the lizard aspects. They could have gone for a pink skink or chameleon-esque creature, but nope. Chubbier Lickitung with a weird head swirl appendage thing. For the record, Apom is really cute, and while it might not be a particular favorite of mine, I still rather like it. The same cannot be said for its evolution, which is ugh. Am I legitimately the only one who finds it kind of creepy? Like, there's always been something off-kilter about its face to me. And why the red-tipped dildo fingers and hair antenna? Number 4. The Elemental Monkeys. Simisear, Simisage, and Simipour. Yep, another group. I see this one fairly commonly on other people's most hated entries, and with good reason. They suck. The only real time people generally use them is to be the strat and gym leaders, and they're practically the same Pokemon with no difference in terms of stats, or even much in terms of design. But that can be forgiven since they were going for a scene. And here's the thing, I actually used my Simisear well into the postgame. Then I realized how everything was pretty much wiping the floor with it, so I switched to using what would become one of my favorite species of Pokemon, Volcarona. Number 3, Miltank. You know the one, so let's be specific here. Whitney's Miltank. While not much of a challenge to me these days, as a little kid going through Silver the first time, and afterwards a relatively easy Faulkner and Bugsy, I was blissfully unaware of the hell that awaited me. Needless to say, my freshly evolved Crocodile was not ready, and got hit by a tract right off. Then she effectively stumped and rolled out my entire team to death. After that experience, I would always overlevel for her. In my Soul Silver playthrough, I decided to cut her some slack and challenged her with my level 26 Quilava, and she still gave us a difficult time. Sure, Cinda was female, so she could shrug off the attract, and we could survive her rollouts and stomps with some healing items, but what made the battle so draining was that she would spam Milk Drink, so we really had to whittle her down. Let's just say the song Can't Defeat Miltank is an entirely accurate representation of kid trainers in the early 2000s. Number 2, Grappler. Now, aside from being made more annoying with the decision to give it Sturdy, a decision that almost always guarantees it will blow up in your unfortunate Pokemon's face the following turn, this one is also more of a personal issue. Exploding is also a big factor in that issue I have with this particular Mon. Now, when I was around 10, I ran into a shiny Growler in Crystal's Victory Road. No points for guessing the ending. Words cannot describe how upset I was, since even then, it was well known that shiny Pokemon were a rare find. Before we get on with who my least favorite Pokemon is, let's have some dishonorable mentions. I may hate these to a certain extent, but I just don't hate them enough for them to make the cut. A more accurate name for this Pokemon probably should have been Ugly Shroom. Ever run into these in any Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game? Prepare to get a pair of Song Hacks and waste a couple Reviver Seeds. Kingdra didn't make the cut because I like using it. I just hate when a boss uses it against me. Watchog, Lenore's is a nightmare and those eyes do scare me a bit. Wobbuffet, you want to know what sucks? Running into one of these bitches on Nuzlocke run in Reflection Cave, it barely hanging on after you attack it, only for it to smash you back with Counter or Mirror Coat, or effectively giving your non-ghost Pokemon a death sentence with Destiny Bond. Number 1. Volbeat. While it may seem odd to have Pokemon as innocuous as Volbeat topping this list, I have a damn good reason for it. For a long time after I lost Sapphire and Ruby, Emerald was my main Pokemon game. And even before I had access to the GTS or another handheld, I always loved trying to complete my Pokedex as much as I could. In Emerald, Volbeat is a surprisingly hard Pokemon to find with a mere 1% chance of appearing. Try as hard as I did back then, and for some reason I never encountered one. Not till my 2013 Nuzlocke playthrough of Emerald. Mind you, this is 8 years since the game's release, on and off searching for one, where I was training for Watson, and bam, Volbeat, completely ignoring Nuzlocke rules. I caught it anyway. It wasn't even worth the effort of hunting for, being such a terrible bug type, but it was still an odd moment of triumph for me. Well, there you have it. Again, sorry if a Pokemon you like is on the list. This is just my silly opinion. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you'd like to leave a list of your own least favorites in the comment section below, go ahead. And again, I'm sorry for this video's delay. I have no idea why it just up and decided to go and delete the original audio. Okay, Jade Azora out.